Hello and welcome to Programming Basics. In this video, we are going to look at the structure of the Arduino programming, and we are going to discuss about the variables and how to use those variables. So Arduino programming language is basically written in C programming, which means all the syntax and the rules should be same as a C programming language. Some of the must-know rules are curly braces. Curly braces defines the begin and end of a functional block. Semicolon. Semicolon must be used to end a statement. Double forward slash, which is a single line comment, and anything you write after double forward slash is not considered as a part of a program. So we use single line comments normally to make your code a more readable and more understandable what is going on in the code. So multi-line comments is written by forward slash asterisk and asterisk forward slash. So anything you write between forward slash asterisk and asterisk forward slash is considered as a multi-line comments, and it is not considered as a part of a program. Again, you use a multi-line comments to make your code more understanding, and if you want to describe something about your code, then you normally put that in your multi-line comments. Another important thing to consider is case sensitivity. So uppercase and lowercase are different. For example, all these different versions of hello are considered different in the Arduino programming. So let's take a look at the Arduino programming and let me describe quickly the concept that we have just learned. So if you look this window, we have a single line comment that is marked by forward slash, right? So anything you write in a forward slash will be ignored, and you can see a color of text is also different. For example, let's say int a is equals to 10, and here I can say a is used for turning on a light, right? So the function of a comment is to make your code more readable. Again, you can also include multi-line comments, something like this, right? So anything you write between here. So this program is going to turn on the light, right? And if you write any statement, you have to end with a semicolon like this. And int a is 10, right? Now you can define another int variable, uppercase a, which is 20. Now, both the a's are different here because of the uppercase and lowercase condition. Now, let's move forward. So in Arduino programming, we always use two different functional blocks, setup and loop. So setup is used to prepare your necessary initial assignments. For example, you want to connect your light to one of the Arduino pin, or you want to maybe set up a serial monitor. These kind of tasks are defined in setup block, in setup functional block. And whatever you have defined in a setup block will run once at the beginning of your program, right? And then there is a second functional block, loop. So loop is basically the main portion of your code which is going to be executed. For example, if you want to turn on the light, then that action of turning on the light is performed in a loop, right? And the functional block loop will run forever. It is not going to run only once, but it is going to run continuously forever. So let's look at an example. So whenever you create a new program in your Arduino, then you are already provided with these two functional blocks, setup block and loop block, right? So one thing to notice here is these two functional blocks always start and end with a curly braces. And then there is a comment line that says setup block, put your setup block code here and it will run only once. In the loop section, it is said put your main code here and it is going to run repeatedly again and again. So whatever you write between these two curly braces belong to setup functional block, and whatever you write between another set of curly braces belong to loop functional block. All right, so now let's move forward to variables. Variable is a name given to store some numerical value or a character in your program. Variable can be later manipulated somewhere down in the program. Variables can store a value, and these value can change later in your program depending on your manipulations. when I say manipulation, then maybe you want to add something to a variable, maybe you want to um, change your variable to some value depending on some conditions. So we will see later on how to use the variables. Um, so you can also perform operation on the variable in your program. So these are the operation that I just mentioned, like addition or subtraction or multiplication. So those kind of operations can be performed in a variable. So there are different kind of variables, and these variables are commonly called as a data types. So integer kind is defined by writing int. A variable that holds a floating point number or a decimal number is a float kind. A variable that holds a small number up to 255 is called a byte kind. Now, these are all defined in lowercase. Remember, Arduino programming is a case sensitive, which means uppercase and lowercase mean two different things. And all the data types must be written in lowercase. They have different range. Byte can hold a number anywhere from 0 to 255. If you want to hold anything that is greater than 255 or maybe less than 0, then you want to start with integer, right? So integer can hold from 32,767 to negative 32,768, right? So there's a float which holds very big numbers. So these this is something that you need to keep in your mind. So based on your variable and based on the range that you are going to use in your program, you want to use a certain kind of data types. Now, how do you declare the variable? First, you write the data type of your variable. In this example, input underscore number is the name of the variable. This variable is going to hold a value of 100, and this variable is of type integer, int. Now, another way to define is I'm defining a variable called new number. This variable is holding a value 212 and it is of type integer. Again, remember, semicolon is used to end this statement. So you have to use that. So there is another variable called input underscore variable, and it is of character type and it is going to hold a value of 12, right? So another variable, my weight, is going to hold 121.2, and it is going to be of kind float, right? Because it is holding a decimal number. Now, let's take a quick quiz. Is this declaration correct? Pause your video here and take a moment to think about the answer. All right, so this is not correct, right? Because you see, declaration here starts with uppercase I. So this is incorrect. You have to have a lowercase I. And there is also a semicolon missing, which means this is incorrect statement. Now, let's take a look at another example. Is this correct? Pause your video here and evaluate the answer. All right, this is also incorrect, right? Because if you want to store a value that is more than 255, then you have to use integer kind, right? Because byte kind can only hold a value from 0 to 255. All right, so now let's check this, this example in Arduino IDE and see how do you debug it. So here, let me write uppercase I and P. So when I write uppercase I and P, Arduino IDE does not even recognize, right? Because if you look, lowercase int has different color and uppercase int is simply ignored. So if I write uppercase int and input underscore number is equals to 100 and without a semicolon, if I try to verify this code, then I get a lot of errors, right? So the way to fix that, if I write lowercase int and I want to verify that, still I get an error because I'm not ending it with a semicolon. Now, if I verify it, it says everything is correct. Now, if I want to make this a byte type, and if I want to assign a value greater than 255, we see an error here. So this error basically says it is greater than the value that a byte can hold. So if I make it within the range, then I see the error goes away. Now let's go back. So what is a variable scope? Variable scope is basically the location in your program where you can use a variable. So local scope basically means the variable that is defined within a function can be used in that function only. It cannot be used outside the function. It is not visible outside the function. And another kind is global variable, which means the variable that is defined as a global variable can be visible everywhere in your program, and it can be used in every single function in your program. So now let's look at an example of that. In this example, input number is defined in a setup function, right? Because it is defined within these two curly braces. So if I want to use the value input underscore number here, let's say I want to do input underscore number is equals to input underscore number. I want to add 1 to this. If I try to run this, I see an error. It says the variable input underscore number was not declared in this scope, meaning this is a local variable and I can use this variable within these two curly braces. So if I want to make this as a global variable, then I have to define it before. So if I define it, if I cut it, if I define it before the function, now since this variable is defined before the curly braces here, that means this is a global variable and I can use this input within a setup also and also within a loop. So I can use this variable throughout the program. So I can use it here as well. Input underscore number is equals to input underscore number minus 10, right? So if I verify this code, I don't get any error. So which means this is now defined as a global variable and it can be used everywhere in the program. Thank you for watching this video. Please check out the reading assignment for this video. I will see you guys in next video.